Hello and welcome to On the Brink with myself, Jerome Coombe, and my co-host, Ciara Hancox.
This new tennis podcast aims to shed light on the emerging talents and unsung heroes of our sport. Each episode we'll be hearing from a new ATP or WTA player about their own experiences in breaking into the relentless sport that is tennis.
In the first episode, we were joined by Australian Tristan Schoolkate, who sits at a career high of 167 after an impressive season that has culminated in his first Grand Slam main draw appearance at the US Open.
Before we get started, make sure to hit that notification bell and follow us on our socials at On The Brink Podcast.
So, Tristan, let's talk in general about your season. You've had an impressive rise through the top. You've won your first Challenger title earlier this year, had some good runs over the summer, and ultimately you were rewarded for your efforts and your commitment with a wildcard into your first main draw Grand Slam. How would you kind of reflect on the season so far?
Well, it's been great. There's been some highs for sure. I've had some great results, but there's been some lows as well. I've lost a lot of matches too, but no, for the most part, I've ticked a lot of boxes and achieved some goals of mine for the year, and very happy with the way I've been progressing on the court. So happy to keep it rolling. There's still a couple more months left and a few more tournaments to be played, so hopefully I can keep pushing on again.
What were those goals that you spoke of at the start of the year?
Oh, I wanted to win my first Challenger. That was a goal of mine. You could probably see that in the relief, I guess, when I won the tournament. Something I was working towards. Obviously, that then helps with the ranking. I wanted to have more consistent, deeper runs at the Challenger level. I wanted to qualify for an ATP 250 as a goal of mine, and win a main draw match at an ATP event. I qualified a couple times at 250 level, but lost first round. But I guess I can count winning an ATP match at a Grand Slam. I think that covers that one. But it's been a pretty big year.
Yeah, let's talk about the US Open run. Pretty incredible stuff. Two kind of high octane matches. Two crazy matches. Start with the first one. You're two sets down, your first main draw. Break down in the third and fourth sets. What's going through your head? Are you kind of thinking, I get a shot at a main draw, and then what's going on?
Oh, it's obviously a long way to come back. 2 sets down, and being down a break in the third didn't help. But I hung tough. I knew I could probably last physically. Pride myself on my fitness and working pretty hard. So if it meant I had to stay out there for 4 or 5 hours, then I was happy to do so. And I guess it nearly did the first round. And I think I just kept my composure. I sort of knew that it wasn't over just yet. But the first 2 sets were a bit tough. And then obviously the finish line for him is getting close. But then once you start clawing your way back, I felt like as it went on, I was just more and more of a chance to win. And to get across the line at the end was fantastic. I was really happy with, I guess, the result, but also just the ability to hang tough and really give myself a chance in the end.
Yeah, and you hit this like sliding backhand passing shot to break. I remember in the third set, break back. How much sort of confidence can you take in the moment from shots like that? Do those sorts of things sort of really spur you on to make those comebacks?
I think somehow it happens, even if you look at all levels, it's those bigger points or the break points. Obviously, they're turning points in matches and momentum can swing each way. And somehow some of the best shots of all time have been on big points. I'm not saying that was the best shot of all time, but it was probably the best shot I hit all match. So to bring it at that point, probably also let him know physically that I'm going to chase down every ball, and that if he's not going to put it away, I'm going to try and get there, and I'm going to keep trying to push for points to come and for the rest of the match. So I think it can definitely turn the match. Obviously, it gives me the break back, and I think it was the fourth set that happened, maybe 4-3. But obviously from then on, I played a really good match. I'd say after that was probably the best tennis I started to bring in that match. But obviously it helps to make that. Maybe I'm not making that 10 out of 10 times, maybe only 3 or 4 times out of 10, but glad I made it then.
When it counts.
Absolutely.
A complete sort of contrast with the second match where you had match points. What's sort of going through your head when he's starting to pull it back, especially in that fifth set?
Oh, it must have been what like Taro was feeling when I played against him. It's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, I got asked these questions in the press conferences after. You would have asked me about my US Open campaign. For 2 sets, it was pretty bad. And then for the next 5, it was really good. And then for the next 3, it was, it was steadily getting away from me. And am I disappointed? Of course. Like, it was tough to swallow at the end, but I'm really glad that I had a crack and pushed Mensik all the way to 5. And obviously, I was 1 point away, 1 shot away, really. And on the match points, I felt like I did the right things and I played the points how I wanted to. I'm glad I didn't shy away from doing what I was doing in the match, and I felt like I asked the right questions and he came up with a couple answers. And I mean, that's tennis. Like, it's a matter of points, and obviously at the top level it's even more so like that.
With those matches, I mean, is it obviously it's different to your day in, day out challenger matches? Would you go back and watch the highlights of those match points, or is that something you move on from? And
I mean, I did, just because I wanted to have a bit of peace of mind, knowing that like I actually had a crack and tried to play the points how I felt on the court. Maybe it looked a bit different. I don't know, but I mean, it's not often I have highlights on YouTube, so I watched it back. A couple of my mates sent them to me, and obviously people that don't see my tennis week in, week out. So no, it's not like I watch it every time and I go to bed and I can't sleep because I didn't win those points. But you got to get used to losing nearly every week in tennis. So obviously I copped that one on the chin, but onwards to the next, and I'll get after it. So it's okay.
Yeah, and it's obviously a really positive thing in general to be in your first main draw of a Grand Slam. Sort of, can you give us a bit of a behind the scenes at a slam? Sort of whether you were able to, really enjoy yourself in New York, or did you feel a lot of pressure to really prove that you were deserving of the wild card?
I felt like I could go out there and just give my best efforts. I don't really feel like any wild card as such is deserved, even though it may feel like it. And obviously people may say, well done, mate, you deserve it, or congratulations, you're well deserving, things like that. Like, I'm not really sure. I think at the end of the day, my ranking is not good enough to get me in the draw. I'm lucky that I'm Australian and we have a partnership with the US to allow one of us to have a wild card. If I was from Italy or maybe Belgium, let's say, then I wouldn't have that opportunity. So obviously I'm extremely grateful I got that chance, and I'm glad I enjoyed and tried to make the most of my time on court, spending 5 sets in 2 rounds. But if I would have lost in straight sets in the first round, I would have tried my hardest and wore my heart on my sleeve. And if I would have lost in straight, that's okay. And if I would have made it all the way to the final, that would have been brilliant too. But I guess, back to enjoying the place itself. It's not often as tennis players you get to enjoy the cities. Usually if you're enjoying it, it means you've lost early. So you want to try and be seeing maybe as little, but I got to see a little bit. My mum came from Australia to New York, so I was spending a lot of time with her and being able to see, a pretty cool city. So, I mean, I got to see a little bit, not as much maybe as I would have liked, but also I'm kind of glad it was like that. And it's a pretty quick turnaround too. I mean, I lost on the Thursday at maybe 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. and I flew out the next day at 6 p.m. So it's a pretty quick turnaround too.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to talk. You obviously mentioned it there, but you're on the brink of third round US Open, and then a couple of weeks later you're back playing 75K Challenger. Is that kind of something that is maybe a bit of a reality check, or do you relish that as being part of the process and part of growing?
I mean, my ranking would suggest that playing in a Grand Slam main draw is a great result, or maybe that would have meant I've qualified or something like that. So the reality is I will play a lot of challenges in the year, and I might get these opportunities that come up, 4 times a year for the slams, and you get to play a few ATP events at the ranking I'm playing. So I wouldn't say it's a reality check. I'm also looking forward to it because, I've only won 1 challenger and I've made 1 final, and maybe if that's the one I won, but even a few semis. So, I mean, it'd be nice to also, play some of those tournaments, try and get some wins under the belt and play a lot of matches against high quality players.
Yeah, and just the final one on the US Open. I just wanted to, so obviously it's quite a significant, money involved in the prize money, especially at the US Open. Was it ever going through your head during, the second round match, maybe, for example, that, if I win, I could win $215,000? Is that something that crosses your mind at all, or?
No, it hasn't. I mean, the money hasn't really come across my mind in tennis yet. Maybe because I'm not making enough. I don't know, but no, nothing really went through my mind during the match, or I didn't want to look at how much it was or things like that. And of course, yeah, I'll joke with my mates, or people will say, "Oh, mate, 1 point away from maybe another 70,000 or 80,000." But I don't know. I mean, as tennis players, you'll speak to a fair few, and I'm sure you know, but it's pretty expensive as it is. A lot of that money just goes, first of all, it goes to tax. You'll lose a fair bit of it. I mean, on the paper, it'll say 200 or 140,000, but you lose a lot to tax. And then straight away, you got to start thinking about expenses with traveling and, yeah, put it towards coaching and physical trainers. Obviously, it initially looks like a lot, but yeah, it all just goes straight back into your own business, which is your tennis career. So
that was my next question. You sort of touched on it. Is that money that you received, 140,000, like you said, is still a lot more than you'd be sort of making regularly on the Challenger Tour. So you were saying most of that goes back into your career. Where have you sort of invested that in sort of the last few weeks?
I haven't received the money just yet, but hopefully it's coming through soon. But no, it's obviously, you've got so many expenses as a tennis player. Obviously, flights alone, like I lose that night, I got to book a flight, and obviously they're not cheap. You're booking it the day of or day before, things like that to get back here. You got obviously your day-to-day expenses in restrings or food and everything. Coaches aren't cheap. You start paying for a coach, you're spending quite a lot of money each week, and obviously that adds up through the year. Yeah, there's plenty of things maybe the average person or the regular Joe will say, "Oh, Tristan, awesome, mate, you made 200 grand." Some weeks I played the Carey Challenger 2 weeks before the US Open, and I think my prize money for second round of qualies was $500 after tax, maybe $300. So, I mean, it's better than a kick in the face and a packet of chips, but it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, life on the Challenger Tour is definitely tough sometimes. I remember, everyone has their own ways of, dealing with things. I remember you shared a house during COVID with the other Aussie guys. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Have you got any other kind of like coping mechanisms, or how do you kind of stay upbeat through the relentless lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to switch off a little bit, whether that everyone's got their different things. My time in Brisbane's always great. I got my training base here where, I mean, I have a place to at least put my clothes in a cupboard, which is nice for a change. But just, yeah, I think little things throughout the year, like you'll try and, if you have a day off through the week, everyone treats them differently. I'll take the time, try and find a decent cup of coffee and probably just sit back and actually remember that even though I might not be making so much some weeks, or some weeks you lose and you have a tough week, or some weeks you have a good week too, and sort of just think, well, I'm pretty lucky to be doing what I'm doing. I'm traveling the world. Yes, it might be last minute, and sometimes you're in India or sometimes you're in China, but there's a lot of good parts to it too, and not everyone gets to live this life. So it's pretty cool to be doing what I'm doing.
Can you talk a little bit about that time during COVID where you shared a place with the other Aussie guys? What was that like? Who did you share with? What did you get up to?
It was a bit of a different time. I mean, everywhere in the world kind of stopped for a bit. Initially, I was living in Perth, Western Australia, which is a 5-hour flight from Brisbane, and there wasn't a whole lot there for me. There's not too much training going on. I mean, I could live pretty normally, but I felt like if I stayed there, I wasn't going to get anywhere. Obviously, with my tennis, doing what I was doing. So the right decision was to move over to Brisbane. I was invited into the National Tennis Academy here, which was for players aged 15 to 23. Some of the top players from each age group to practice and train in Brisbane. During that time, obviously, we had no tournaments. We started playing a few UTRs later in the year of 2021. I moved over there and I lived with Callum and Liam Puttigill. So Liam's the younger brother. I shared a room with him of Callum. Callum plays on the tour at the moment, and back then obviously he was still playing a lot of singles. Now he just plays doubles. And also Dane Sweeney. And Dane was, obviously similar age to me, similar ranking. Spent a lot of time together in juniors, so it was pretty cool to be around those boys. And we also had a couple other people there too for a few months, which was pretty chaotic in a 3-bedroom place, having 6 people. But if that meant saving an extra few dollars, like that was all that we were worried about. And it was a good time. It was full on. We all got after it and had a good time, and spent not too much money on beds and all the furniture and everything like that. We were hustling on Facebook Marketplace a lot of the time, and it wasn't to be pretty, but yeah.
And about you mentioned about how expensive it is if you want to have a coach. What does your sort of travel team look like? Because obviously a lot of tennis fans are probably used to watching, the top 10 players who have teams of 5, 6, 7 people in their box every week. And it's obviously very different for those playing on the Challenger Tour. So who do you sort of travel with regularly?
I've been lucky enough, as I said before, there was the National Tennis Academy in Australia was for 15 to 23 years old. So I'm 23 now. It's my last year in the academy. So they'll support some of the players with coaches. It's a shared agreement for me. So I share a coach in Andrew Roberts. He's coaching myself and Adam Walton. So he's assigned us for the year, and he doesn't travel every week. He travels a lot of weeks, and he is sometimes at tournaments, obviously. And yeah, he's done a fair few weeks on the road with us, and we've had some pretty hectic schedules through the year. So I'm obviously thankful for that, and lucky to be in that position. I wasn't paying. That's how Tennis Australia, I guess, support me in my career. And obviously looking into next year, it's a little bit different. I'll have to outsource and find something that will work for me and how I can go about that. But yeah, really it would just be my coach if he was there. And then sometimes around the slams, usually they would send a physical trainer or someone from Tennis Australia to be there too. So but there's also a lot of focus on a lot of players. So whether or not it worked out with the timing, maybe they were courtside, maybe they weren't. But it is a wake-up call when you rock into an ATP 250. I played in the Netherlands at 's-Hertogenbosch, and I played against Sebastian Korda in the first round there. And yeah, I guess I had my coach there watching. And then he had obviously a team of maybe 5 people or 4 people where, yes, he can afford that because he's playing on the tour every week. He's making some deep runs and he's top 30 in the world. So it's not cheap, that's for sure. But yeah, it could make the difference if you have a coach, a physio, things like that on the road. I think it's important. And on the Challenger Tour, I can confidently say, I'd say 60% probably travel without a coach. It's too expensive, or if they're not helped by a federation, then they're probably just trying to make it work with either a family member, someone they know, a local coach. And yeah, obviously some things work out and some don't, but everyone's trying their best and doing what they can with what they've got.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it obviously can get pretty lonely at times. Do you feel like you kind of happy to have, you always, there's quite a lot of Australian contingent, in and around tournaments. Is that kind of another coping mechanism that to have, your compatriots at these tournaments as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of weeks where you're alone. I mean, as tennis players, you're all competing against each other too, so it's a little bit awkward in that sense. Yeah, everyone's got different relationships with every player. Some get along better with others and some do. So I've got quite a few, I guess, mates on the road that, I can get along with. I can actually go and have dinner with, or I might watch a bit of their match. They might watch a bit of mine, and helps to have a lot of Australians out there doing the same thing because, I mean, as a collective, we do a lot of travel and everyone knows that. So getting around each other a little bit everywhere can help out a long way.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, it's been a pretty good season, as we said. Your first challenger, career high now, main draw of a Grand Slam. Is this what you were expecting, at the start of the year or last year? Is this something you were kind of expecting to have a good breakthrough year?
I put in a big pre-season training at the end of last year, and Yeah, I wanted to stay physically and mentally strong through the whole year. It's obviously a long year for everyone, but I definitely believe I can make it to this ranking. I believe I can keep going and push further, and having other Aussies in front of me who keep pushing the boundaries and keep doing well. And I guess, climbing the ranks gives me a bit of inspiration and motivation to keep going and keep doing what I'm doing, and really believe in the way I play and believe in the training and hard work that I'm putting in. And you can never expect it to just happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned your fellow Aussies. There's obviously 10 Australians in the top 10 of the ATP, in the top 100, sorry, of the ATP at the moment. Are they sort of a good sort of inspiration to you? Are any of them helpful to you personally in terms of, pushing you on to make that jump?
Yeah, I mean, it's a healthy crew that we have. Everyone's doing great things. It obviously stems from Alex de Minaur, who's ranked the highest in Australia. And he's very nice off the court. He will say hi and make sure he's, I guess, spurring me on before the US Open. He was pretty open to give me any advice. And I train a lot with James Duckworth and obviously Adam Walton. They're both ranked inside the top 100. I see them a lot. So obviously it helps to be around that too, to see what the level's like. And I mean, I'm the same age as Rinky Hijikata, so we've known each other since we were 11 or even younger than that. So having those people to, I guess, feed off and also push on as well. Like I'm, wanting to be at that ranking or better someday. So I'll keep doing what I can to get there. And I think they want to see me have some success too. So it's a healthy relationship that the Australians have created. And there's no surprise that there's a lot of us up there, and hopefully we can keep pushing more and more to get there. And it's a good community.
Yeah, so just wanted to ask a bit about, your junior days. You obviously played from such a young age. Obviously your dad was heavily involved in the sport as well. Was there maybe a specific moment, in your teens or before, where you thought, this is something I can do for a living?
Oh, I mean, my only real focus when I started playing was just to enjoy it and have a bit of fun, and to pick it up pretty well. I was lucky enough to have my dad as a tennis coach, so probably saved my parents a fair bit of money. I did pretty well in Perth, but that was no super achievement, because as soon as I went to nationals, suddenly start losing some matches. You realise there's a few other players out there. You then go on your first Europe trip and you get wiped off the court by a few guys in Italy and France and things like that. So it's a bit of a wake-up call there, I guess. I think I always just, coming back to the enjoyment and having a love for the game, it spurred me on. And now, I still enjoy it as much as little Tristan did. And I'm still working as hard as possible. So if I can keep climbing up the rankings, that'd be great.
I think the enjoyment is the key there. I keep telling the younger players, they just need to have fun. Maybe your best memory so far of your career?
I'd probably say winning the Challenger in China. That'd probably be this year, probably my favourite one. Just kind of how it came upon, and I spent some weeks in Mexico beforehand and didn't have the greatest of results, and kept at it, and part of a bit of a long trip, and made that long trip from Mexico to China and stuck with it and had some decent results, and to come through and win that title was pretty good. It was a busy week winning singles and doubles, and very happy with the work that went into that.
And sort of on the other side of things, what's your sort of worst memory of tennis that you can think of? Maybe a loss or something that really sort of impacted you, but probably spurred you on going forward?
I think for me, the toughest weeks probably came when I was playing the last year of juniors, or maybe even the second or first year of playing professional tour. I had weeks where I was going to try and make the Grand Slams of juniors, and decided to go and play some higher level tournaments in Europe instead of playing in Australia and trying to collect maybe some easier points, and losing opportunities to make it into like main draws of the Grand Slams, and losing first and second round in those grade ones, and having plenty of tears in the eyes and laying in the middle of nowhere on some random French town and Italian town with my dad was pretty tough going. But also in the professional space, like I went a lot of weeks. I went to the US in 2021. I spent, I think, 3 months in the States, maybe 2.5 months, and I collected 1 ATP point. So that was a pretty good trip, that one to forget. But yeah, I think coming off the court and 15K qualies, paying my entry fee, and the doubles getting cancelled in a 15K in Florida and receiving a check of $22 was pretty special. So yeah, I've had some tough times, but for the most part, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, nice. And maybe kind of your biggest inspiration in the sport?
My favourite player was always Jo-Wilfried Tsonga. I can't say he was I guess, yeah, I always just loved the way he played and how he entertained the crowd, but also how good of a player he was. I think having Leighton Hewitt as a top player from Australia was always a bit of an inspiration. I remember I used to play when I was a junior and turn my cap backwards when I started losing because I thought that I was going to come back, and if I ripped a few come-ons, maybe I was a chance. But no, I think just watching Nadal and Federer and Djokovic on the TV, Andy Roddick as well when I was younger was pretty cool for me. And just watching those finals and sort of epic matches at the Grand Slams always made me dream of being there myself.
Where do you think you'll be in December 2025?
I'd love to be in the top 100 and playing in the main draw of Grand Slams. It's where I dream of being and where I want to be in a year's time, and I think that's what every tennis player dreams of, and it's after having a taste of it, I'd like to make that a regular thing.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed episode 1 of On the Brink.
Make sure to follow us on the socials and keep an eye for new episodes coming every other Friday, in which we'll hear from a new player who is on the brink of breaking through.